for our New Year's reception. The NABC, for those who don't know it, represents the Dutch American business and professional community in the US. And we are a network of independent Dutch American chambers of commerce and local chapters of the Netherlands America Foundation. It is in the breakout sessions, what we'll do is we'll give every NABC member that's in that breakout session the opportunity to further explain how they can engage with their individual chamber. And I think that's very important because we encourage you to join those Dutch American Chambers of Commerce, whether it's in Atlanta, Washington, Chicago, and the NABC in Houston, in California. We have a couple in New York and Boston. So please join those organizations individually, and those will be represented in the NABC. Now, before introducing our guest speakers, Ambassador André Haspels, followed by Bart van Bolhuis, I would like to especially thank the Netherlands Embassy and the consulates, because without them, this would not have been possible. Now, it's time to ask your attention for His Excellency Ambassador André Haspels, who will be reflecting on the past year, looking forward to the year ahead, and lead us in the New Year's toast. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Ambassador, you are on mute.
Very good, sorry. I was saying thank you very much, Jacob, and I share your frustration that we have to organize this meeting again by Zoom, despite the fact that I sometimes forget to unmute. I thought I've become quite experienced, and I'd much rather see a personal meeting, but unfortunately that's not the case yet. Let's hope that for next year we'll have an in-person session. But let me thank you, the Netherlands American Business Council, already for organizing this event. Thank you very much. Also thanks to other persons who have been involved, including the NAF chapters in various states. I think what we share is our ambition to work on strengthening the transatlantic ties, not only in the economic field and trade and investment, but also when it comes to education and fellowship, specifically for the NAF, but also for the business side. If I have to formulate my best wishes or my hope for this year, it would be that we will continue to invest in the transatlantic relationship. And with investing, I do not only mean in the economic side, but also much broader when it comes to geopolitics, when it comes to health, when it comes to places where they meet. It is of crucial importance that we continue to invest in each other. Let me give you a few oversights of the different areas. First of all, the economy. I mean, it's a mixed bag. If you look at the figures, for instance, in the United States, in the labor market, 6.4 million jobs have been created in the past year. But of course, these jobs come from a very deep hole, and at the overall picture, it's not up to the expectations that we had before the pandemic. So yes, it was a great figure, great statistic for past year, but if you compare it to pre-pandemic levels, we are still not where we should be. If you look at the Netherlands, inflation in the past year, 2.7%. Higher, of course, than in the years before. Actually, the highest figure since 2003, which also leaves a lot of uncertainties. Yes, the salaries rise, but we've also seen price rises in the Netherlands when it comes to energy, food, etc., etc. So, in both our countries, the United States and the Netherlands, there are challenges in the economic field. It is interesting to see, and I don't know if you've seen it, that The Economist published on the 1st of January a list of, I think, 23 countries on how they recovered from the pandemic. Actually, the Netherlands and the United States are in the middle group. Just to make sure that I don't lie to you, the Netherlands was on number 8 and the US on number 9. Smaller countries, mainly in the Scandinavian area, were in the top, and the bigger European countries, including the UK, were much more at the end of the list. The US did quite well when it comes to public spending, and we did much better compared to other countries when it comes to managing our government debt. But in general, if you look at the overall picture, I think the Netherlands and the US, compared to other countries, did relatively well when we asked the question, how did we deal with the crisis? I'm not going to update you on the coronavirus. You all are following the news. I think the latest figures show that the Omicron variant is much more contagious than we previously thought. That's the bad thing. The good thing is that until now, less people get into hospital and less people die. But I think one person has not muted, at least that I hear. So if everybody can mute, it would be good. Okay. So that's for the virus. Having said that, it remains to be seen how it will develop. Of course, we have left behind the period of travel bans. I'm very happy to see that. The 15th of November last year, finally, Netherlands or Dutch citizens could also come to the United States. Earlier in the year, I think mid-June, Europe and the Netherlands was already open for US citizens. It looks like, for now at least, we are not going back to the times of travel bans, but as you have all seen, we are going into a more stricter health and sanitary regulation requirements, which includes, of course, testing before boarding, but also a quarantine period when you come back in the Netherlands. I know this is very inconvenient, and I really hope we can quickly skip this phase, but until now, this is the situation, and you have to take that into account. Plus the fact, unfortunately, that it might happen, of course, that if you are here in the United States and you become a positive tested, that you might have to stay a bit longer with us here in the United States if you want to go back to the Netherlands. So that's an uncertainty how the virus will develop, but my expectation is that we will keep stricter health regulations for some time, but that we will luckily not go back to the times of travel ban. Then the uncertainty that I would like to mention is, of course, political field. I'm not going to elaborate too much on those areas now. If you look at the situation with Russia, today the first meeting between the United States and Russia on Ukraine. Later this week there will be a NATO meeting, and later this week there will be a meeting in the framework of the OSCE. All very relevant for the world economy as well, not only when it comes to finding a solution, but also possible consequences. If sanctions will have to be taken from the West against Russia, it will certainly affect us, entrepreneurs, businessmen, our energy sector, which of course we hope to avoid. So that's very relevant. The other geopolitical aspect that I would briefly like to mention is, of course, the relationship with China. Previously, sorry, we were much focused on market access, state subsidies from China, but also there developments have gone very fast in the past couple of years. We're now much more focusing on and discussing with the Americans when it comes to China on export controls, on sanctions and how we deal with that. But also, for instance, on data registration. So new subjects in our common agenda, a common agenda between the Netherlands, the EU on one side and the United States on the other side, when it comes to how to deal with China. And of course, I'm not going to update you on the challenges with the supply chains. I saw in the questionnaire that quite a few of your companies have had problems with the supply chains. It looks like they will still be here for at least some time, but hopefully that will also recuperate very quickly. Then very briefly, in both our countries, internal policies. Yesterday, we had, of course, a new government installed by our king. You've all seen that. Happy to announce that. We have, I think, a strong government with capable ministers. The title of our program of the new government is Looking After Each Other and Looking Forward to the Future, which I think is a great title. It very much invests in Europe, but it also very much invests in the transatlantic relationship. And important, it focuses on the economy. If you look at the the areas that have been mentioned. Health is obviously one of them where we want to invest much more. Everything that has to do with sustainable growth, with climate transition, so including energy, but also with innovation in various sectors, with digitization, the defense sector, also a very important component in our relationship, in our bilateral relationship. There's a strong focus on SMEs, on small and medium-sized enterprises in our new government program. And obviously, there's a strong focus on startups as well. These are the core of our economy, and we want not only them to do well in the Netherlands, but also here in the United States. Internal politics in the US, well, we're looking forward, of course, to the upcoming midterm elections in November. There's a lot of discussions already, certainly after the 6th of January, 1 year after the events at the Capitol, where you might have read the speech of President Biden or listened to it. And it looks like the country is divided on a number of areas, unfortunately, including whether President Biden is the rightfully elected president. And this division is not in the interest of the United States. It's certainly also not in the interest of Europe and the Netherlands. So I really hope that both parties will be able to find common ground. It is possible. If you look at, for instance, the infrastructure bill, there is a strong infrastructure bill now with a lot of possibilities also for Dutch companies to work on in the different fields of infrastructure defined very broadly, and not only traditional roadways and rail lines, but also the digital network, etc., etc. So there are a lot of possibilities there. And again, it is possible to find common grounds, but we must be honest. There's also a lot of division and polarization still between the different groups here in the United States. Then the economic ties. I'm not going to repeat the well-known figures. We are number 5. I'm sorry, I see the sun coming in a bit in my room, which is a good sign, but you still should see me. Number 5 when it comes to in the top 5 when it comes to investing in the United States, the Netherlands. The United States remains the largest foreign investor in the Netherlands. We create for about 850,000 jobs, or at least Dutch companies support 850,000 jobs here in the US. I have to admit that there are challenges as well, because as you all know, the big companies like Unilever and Shell will not be counted in Dutch investments anymore. So that, I think, is an extra stimulus for us to ensure that we remain well presented here in the United States with more companies in different sectors. I just described them. So not only the big companies, but certainly also the small and medium-sized enterprises. That's what I would like to say for now. Again, I would like to start with where I began, namely, I really encourage you to invest in our relationship for all the reasons that I've just explained. Of course, the US network is available for you. Our CGs, our honorary consuls, the embassies, the NBSOs, the innovation offices, the whole team is there. You'll be able to meet with them later on. But from my side, again, we are here to help you wherever we can. And I'm really looking forward to make 2020 a great year again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. I do not see Bart van Bolhuis in the session at the moment, while I was supposed to give him the floor. So I'm now looking at Rut.
Yeah, I'm here. So.
Oh, you're there. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe you were there under a different name. Sorry, Bart. In that case, I'm going to introduce you. I didn't see you under your name, so my apology.
No problem.
Bart van Bolhuis arrived last summer at the Netherlands Embassy in Washington as the head of the economic section. And before that, he was Consul General in Istanbul. And some of you may actually remember that Bart was the Consul General in San Francisco from 2009 to 2013. So he definitely has a lot of experience in the US. And he's going to update us on actually the economic side of 21, and looking forward to the economic side and the activities of the network in 22. Bart, floor is yours.
Ja, dankjewel, Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. Thank you, Ambassador, also for the introduction, André. Let me be brief because I think the main chunk of this gathering is also to the interactive part, which is following. I don't know if I was really allowed to participate in the questions, but I did, and I voted much along your line. So, as most of you, I'm also very positive about the economic ties and the trade and investment perspectives that we still have. André, Ambassador, mentioned a few things. In a month or so, we will present an update from our economic ties. So that is many of you know this. I think for every state and the US as a whole, we present the numbers of the trade and investment relation, the contributions to GDP, and also the jobs created by this trade and investment, actually by you doing the business. And I also share with most of you the negative impact that COVID had and still has. But also the good news is, if we look at the numbers as such, that we see our trade figures and the growth in our trade figures actually back on pre-COVID levels. That happened already at the end of last year. So that's very promising. And it sort of relates to the overall perspective that recovering on economic terms from COVID went much better, both in the Netherlands and in the US. I think at the start of the pandemic, we were far more pessimistic about the let's say midterm economic impact of it. Also, if you look to investments, we expect that to pick up during this year to the old levels. And also good news is that our own Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency reached its targets last year. So well done, NFVA. And of course, your assessment of being positive, I hope we can discuss it during the breakout sessions, is of much interest for us as well. We dealt with this pandemic in economic terms on different ways. Ambassador also already mentioned that both in the Netherlands and the US did relatively well. As you know, we back in the Netherlands, we supported businesses avoiding collapsing, and as a result of it, you see still very low unemployment figures in the Netherlands, very low unemployment figures, and actually that correlates in a way with one of the issues the main issue that you mentioned is the labor market shortages, the search for talent. Also back home in the Netherlands, that's a big issue if we're talking about investment acquisition, where to find the talented people, education next to housing, shortage of land, shortage of energy, shortage of green energy, that are some of the main topics that our new government has to address and will address. For our bilateral relations, I think we were very happy that today was the first meeting between Secretary of State Blinken and our own new Minister Hoekstra. And I retweeted a tweet of Mr. Blinken, Secretary Blinken, in which he said, well, our ambition is to bring our relations to the next level. And that's also what we want to do. We want to keep our economic ties strong and to strengthen them, but at the same time, we also want to focus even more on what we call the shared challenges. And many of these challenges are also in line with popped up during as a response on your second question. Talent, labor, but also supply chain issues. We remain critical, of course, towards the US about their Buy America policy. We agree that it's important both for Europe and the US to bring back production to the country, and that COVID showed us that supply chains are quite vulnerable, not only for geopolitical reasons, but just the fact that the supply chains are long, that we are much too dependent from producers in mainly Asia. The shortage of containers. Martin, we talked about it. Actually, for me, yesterday was a happy moment because finally, after 6 months, my own container arrived on its way from Istanbul to Baltimore. At least it arrived in Baltimore. So hope it will arrive soon at our front door as well. Challenges that we have to work on together. We know that TTIP has gone, but we opened up new discussions in the TTC, the Trade and Tech Council, with the US, Europe, and the US. It will be a very important level of talks and really addressing the issues. And we remain to invite you to call us, to knock on the door with issues, challenges that you have. Might be related to taxation. We discussed this with partners on Holland on the Hill, but via our consulates or directly to our office. Please share with us the issues that you have in the US, or regional, local, or federal. Shared challenges for us is also meaning addressing these issues related to health and climate change, the energy transition, because we know that without tackling them together, a business is difficult. But at the same time, we also know that there are great opportunities in working together on these challenges. So in our program for next year, you will find a lot of activities, seminars, missions, trade missions, focusing on these areas. I will mention a few in a minute. Nevertheless, COVID affected also our business, and as the ambassador said, the November 15th opening up for traveling was an important factor. Now we see a slowdown again during this month, probably next month, but nevertheless, I think it was a good thing. It will be, I guess, discussed also in the San Francisco breakout that the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas continued with almost 200 participants from the Netherlands. The South by Southwest in Austin in March is on our calendar. The Photonic West in San Francisco. There will be activities in the agriculture field in Atlanta, poultry, Miami Soccer X in March. Looking forward to that a lot. So even in the first quarter, where we will probably see some negative impact of this corona wave, we continue to do this kind of activities, but of course, there will be impact that we have to do without some of the elements like receptions and so on. We hope that from the third quarter, we can be back full-fledged with a number of other activities. Very much looking forward to probably the first economic mission headed by our new Minister for Foreign Trade in September to the West Coast. Where we will addressing life science health, but also food and and some mobility aspects early on also in California. A mobility mission will take place, and we will do a number of activities related to climate and the energy transition. For example, on hydrogen, together with the Port of Rotterdam and Houston, together with our partners in business on offshore wind, not only in the Northeast, but also in the Mid-Atlantic and hopefully also in the Texas area, where we start to have activities. Circular economy will be a more and more important issue on our agenda. It's one of the 3 main topics for innovation that our new government has on its agenda, and it is relevant for our business as well, also in agriculture and food. We'll continue to work on the greenhouse cooperation with Kentucky and Pennsylvania, and climate adaptation and water will remain an important topic, and we will step up there again. Also in the Houston area, coastal protection, we have the WEFTEC in New Orleans in October. So we'll find a lot of topics related to that, also to cyber and fintech. And last but not least, together with our network to support the startups and the scale-ups, SLO network in New York and San Francisco. Together with the partners of Holland in the Valley, we will see a number of activities. And congratulations also to our colleagues in San Francisco for the initiative of Scale NL and the launch of it, which will be of a lot of support for that part of our business. So that's a bit of our program for next year. We were looking forward to work with you, partners in NABC and others to make it happen. It might be a bit of a disappointing start with COVID hitting us again, but we are very optimistic that we will build back better. Thank you, Jacob.
Excellent. Thanks, Bart. I think we've received both from the ambassador and Mr. van Bolhuis great food for thought and food for discussion in the breakout session. So without further ado, I would like to invite you to start selecting the breakout session of your choice.
Can I just quickly go through that?
Yeah.
I'm sharing my screen. So we will start the breakout session shortly, just in a few seconds. You'll see the breakout rooms underneath in your toolbar bar. If you do not see it, just hit more. It's just that you're not in full screen. There will be a lot of participants on the top. So you will have to scroll down and you will see Atlanta, Chicago, Miami, New York, Boston, San Francisco, and Washington. When you hover over on the right side of the breakout room you would like to join, you will see a join button. You click on that and then you will see this right here, joining breakout room. This could take a few moments just because there are so many participants. If you are unable to join the room of your choice, please just use the chat function. One of the co-hosts will be able to manually assign you. And if you are in the breakout room, you made a mistake or you want to change rooms, you can click on breakout again. So the button with the 4 little squares, and you choose the breakout room of your choice to join a different room. So I just wanted to let everybody know for just the people that are unaware of how to join.
Thanks so much, Annemarie. I can imagine it's going to be incredibly difficult to choose the right breakout session. Rest assured, we will be recording the breakout sessions as well. So you can always, and we will follow up with you with links to YouTube. So you can always follow those other sessions at a later moment. Now, after this breakout session, we will not come back to the general room. So every session basically can follow its own timeline. And because of that, the only thing that rests me is to wish you a very happy, healthy, prosperous new year. And for the very short term, a very good breakout session. And please, this is the moment to choose your breakout session, and I'll see you over there.